The night before my sister's wedding, I picked up my phone to check our family group chat, but something felt off. My sister's name was gone. I searched again, and that's when it hit me. She had blocked me. Everywhere. My calls didn't go through, my texts turned green, and the chat disappeared. I sat there staring at my screen, my heart sinking. What did I do wrong? We were just laughing together last week while choosing her wedding dress. I spent the night replaying every conversation in my head, trying to find a reason, but there was none. The next morning, I got up, put on the dress I had planned to wear, and decided to go anyway. Maybe there had been a mistake. Maybe she'd explain. But the moment I walked into the wedding hall, the world seemed to stop. The music softened, whispers rippled through the crowd, and every single person turned to look at me. Some faces showed shock, others pity. My mother looked away, my aunt whispered something behind her hand, and my sister, standing near the stage in her white dress, froze when our eyes met. I felt like I didn't belong there, like I had walked into someone else's story. My chest tightened, but I forced a small smile and walked further in, pretending I didn't notice the silence. I didn't know then that my presence that day would ruin more than just the pictures. It would uncover the one secret my family had been hiding from me all along. My name is Lily. I'm 27, and I've always been the dependable one in my family. You know, the person who remembers birthdays, plans the surprises, cleans up after everyone else's mess, and never complains. I teach second grade, so I guess patience just runs in my blood. My younger sister Rachel, on the other hand, has always been the princess. That's what Mom called her, my little princess. When we were kids, Rachel would spill juice on the couch, and I'd be the one scolded for not watching her properly. It was the same pattern for years. I learned to accept it, convincing myself that maybe Mom just needed to protect her more. But deep down, it always hurt being the background character in my own family. When Rachel got engaged, I honestly thought things were changing. She called me crying when her fiancé proposed. I was the first person she told. I helped her pick the perfect dress, stayed up late comparing invitation designs, and even covered part of the venue deposit when the payment deadline came too soon. It wasn't a big deal to me. She was my sister, and I wanted her big day to be perfect. But even then, there were little moments that stung. Like when I showed Mom a hairstyle I thought would look nice for the wedding, and she said, "Just don't make it about you, honey." I laughed it off, pretending it didn't bother me, but the words lingered. Or when Rachel's bridal shower came around, and Mom barely mentioned that I'd organized everything. She hugged Rachel and said, "You're glowing, sweetheart. You deserve every bit of this." I stood in the corner, smiling, clapping, playing the part of the proud sister. Still, I hoped maybe this wedding would bring us closer. I imagined us laughing in the dressing room, crying during the vows, maybe even sharing a sister moment before she walked down the aisle. For once, I wanted to feel like I belonged, not as the helper or the backup, but as family. In the weeks before the wedding, I noticed little changes. Rachel became distant, replies shorter, tone colder. When I asked if she was okay, she brushed it off. "Just wedding stress, you know." I believed her. I wanted to. I didn't realize that behind the sweet smiles and family group chats, something had already shifted. Mom started making decisions without including me. Seating charts, decorations, even the rehearsal dinner. When I asked why, she said, "Oh, it was just easier this way." I try not to take it personally. I told myself, it's her wedding, not yours. But when you've spent your whole life being the dependable one, the invisible one, you start to notice when people stop seeing you altogether. That's why, when Rachel blocked me the night before her wedding, it wasn't just confusing, it was confirmation. That no matter how much I gave, I'd always be the outsider in my own family story. It started small, the kind of things you almost miss if you're not looking closely. A few weeks before the wedding, Lily noticed there was another group chat forming, one that she wasn't in. She didn't think much of it at first. Maybe it was for vendors or decorations. But then one day, Rachel accidentally mentioned something about a dress fitting update that Lily had never heard of. When Lily asked, "Oh, when's that happening?" there was an awkward silence, followed by a mumbled, "Oh, don't worry, it's nothing big." That was the first time Lily felt it, that sinking weight in her stomach that told her she was being quietly pushed out of the very celebration she helped build. Over the next few days, her ideas, once appreciated and encouraged, started disappearing. The color palette she suggested was replaced without notice. The floral arrangement she'd planned with the decorator was changed last minute, and when she asked about it, Rachel simply said, "We decided something softer looked better." The word "we" stung more than she wanted to admit. Still, Lily tried to stay helpful, smiling through the small slights, convincing herself it wasn't intentional. But Rachel's tone had changed too. Little comments dressed as jokes like, "Don't worry, you'll get your turn someday," whenever Lily asked about wedding details. Or, "You wouldn't understand, it's different when you're the bride." Each remark chipped away at Lily's patience, not because of jealousy, but because it reminded her of a pattern that had followed her since childhood, Rachel getting everything effortlessly while Lily worked quietly in the background. The tension finally came to the surface one evening during a family dinner. They were discussing seating arrangements, and Mom was again siding with Rachel on every little detail. When Lily gently pointed out how unfair it was that her suggestions were constantly dismissed, Mom sighed and said, "Sweetheart, this is Rachel's moment. You don't have to insert yourself into everything." Lily's chest tightened as she looked at her mother, realizing this wasn't about the wedding at all. It was about years of being the one expected to shrink so others could shine. She tried to keep her voice calm but firm as she said, "I'm not trying to take her moment, Mom. I just want to be treated like I matter, too." Rachel rolled her eyes, muttering, "Here we go again," and Mom quickly ended the discussion with a tense smile, changing the subject. The next morning, Lily woke up to a message from her mother. "Hey, honey, we think it's best if you skip the bridal breakfast tomorrow. There's been too much stress lately, and we all just need some peace." Lily stared at the text for a long time, rereading it over and over, feeling that familiar ache in her chest. She replied, "Why am I being treated like the problem?" And after a long pause, Mom sent back, "Sweetheart, we just want peace. Maybe skip this one." That was it. No explanation, no apology, just a gentle push further away from the family circle she'd spent her whole life trying to be part of. That night, as Lily sat alone, she realized this wasn't about a single breakfast or a misunderstanding. It was the slow erasing of her presence, one skipped message, one silent decision at a time. She felt frustration, then isolation, and finally, a quiet sadness settling in her chest, heavier than she'd ever known before. The night before Rachel's wedding, Lily sat in her small apartment, scrolling through her phone, checking the wedding group chat for any last-minute updates. But something felt off. The chat was gone. She frowned, refreshing her screen again and again, until she realized she hadn't just been removed, she'd been blocked. Confused, she texted her best friend, Megan, who was attending the wedding too. Within minutes, Megan sent a series of screenshots that made Lily's heart drop. A new family group chat had been created, one that included everyone except her. The messages were filled with laughter, final plans, and even a picture of the updated seating chart. Her name was gone, replaced by guest TBD. Even worse, there were comments under the post from her own relatives saying things like, "It'll be much smoother this way, and no drama this time." Her hands trembled as she read those words. Everyone knew. Everyone except her. She stared at her reflection in the dark window, her mind racing between disbelief and heartbreak. 4 months! She'd planned, paid, and participated, all to be silently erased the night before the big day. The reality hit her, so hard it took her breath away. She cried before, but not like this. This was the kind of cry that came from years of swallowing pain, from always being the one left out, from realizing the people you love most never saw you as enough. Tears streamed down her face until she couldn't tell if she was angry or just hollow. 4 hours, she sat in silence, clutching the wedding gift she'd wrapped weeks ago, a custom scrapbook filled with childhood photos of her and Rachel, with a note inside that read, "I'll always be proud of you." By midnight, her phone buzzed with notifications from social media, her family members posting stories from the rehearsal dinner, all smiles and champagne. No one had noticed she wasn't there. That was when something inside her shifted. The tears stopped. Her breathing steadied. The pain didn't vanish, but it changed shape. It hardened into resolve. She realized that being silent was exactly what they wanted. They had written her out of the story, and she wasn't going to let that happen. She wouldn't beg to be included anymore. Instead, she decided to walk into that wedding and remind them that she existed, not to cause chaos, but to reclaim the dignity they tried to take from her. The next morning, Lily woke up early, the sunlight spilling across her bed. She picked her outfit carefully, a soft blue dress that brought out her calm, steady energy. She did her makeup, fixed her hair, and looked at herself in the mirror. Her reflection looked composed, but her eyes carried a quiet storm. Before leaving, she picked up the wrapped gift, held it close for a moment, and whispered, "You deserve peace, Lily." Then she slipped on her heels, locked the door, and drove to the venue. When she arrived, she could already hear the faint music and laughter from the hall. Her hands tightened around the gift as she walked up the steps. The moment she stepped through the door, the room fell into silence. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Every pair of eyes turned toward her, some widened in shock, others whispered behind their hands. Her mother's face went pale as if she'd seen a ghost, and Rachel, standing near the altar in her perfect white gown, froze with a half-smile that quickly disappeared. Lily could hear her own heartbeat in her ears. Rachel's voice cut through the silence in a furious whisper as she hurried over, her heels clicking sharply against the floor. "What are you doing here?" she hissed, her voice trembling more from panic than anger. Lily looked at her sister, really looked, and for the first time, saw not a bride or a rival, but a scared little girl who had learned from their mother how to erase anyone who didn't fit the perfect picture. Calmly, Lily replied, "Giving my blessing like a sister should." Her voice was steady, not bitter, just honest. For a moment, no one moved. The photographer's camera hung in the air mid-click. The silence stretched thick between them. Their mother finally stepped forward, forcing a smile. "Lily, sweetheart, maybe we can talk outside," she said, her tone tight, her eyes pleading. Lily looked around the room, then back at her mother and sister. She nodded slowly, placed the gift on the table beside the wedding cake, and said softly, "No need. I just wanted you to see me one last time." Then she turned and walked out, her head held high. Behind her, whispers rose, and the perfect illusion of their family began to crack. As Lily stepped into the sunlight, a strange calm washed over her. The pain was still there, but so was strength, raw, steady and real. For once, she hadn't let them silence her. And deep down, she knew her quiet defiance had spoken louder than any confrontation ever could. Lily stood just outside the wedding hall, her fingers tightening around the envelope she had prepared the night before. The air inside had felt suffocating, the stares, the whispers, her mother's fake smile trying to preserve the illusion of a perfect day. Every part of her wanted to scream, to demand why she'd been erased after everything she'd done. But she didn't. Not this time. The old version of Lily would have begged for an explanation, would have cried and tried to make peace. But this version, the one who had spent the night confronting years of exclusion and emotional bruises, was done explaining herself. She took a deep breath, straightened her back, and walked back into the hall with quiet purpose. The music had picked up again, and laughter returned, though it was nervous and fragmented. People watched her, uncertain what she would do. Lily kept her expression calm, collected, almost graceful, as she approached the long white table covered in wedding gifts and flowers. The table was adorned with bright wrapping paper, shiny ribbons, and delicate cards, all symbols of love and celebration. In the middle of it, Lily found an empty spot and gently placed her envelope down. It wasn't wrapped in glitter or bows, just plain ivory paper sealed with gold wax. Her handwriting across the front read simply, "For Rachel and James." No flourish, no heart drawn in the corner, just quiet truth waiting to be opened. Inside the envelope were copies of receipts, detailed records of everything she had paid for, the $600 venue deposit when Rachel's credit card had maxed out, the florist invoice she'd covered because Mom forgot to reimburse her, the invoice for the custom-printed invitations she designed and ordered herself. On top of it all was a single folded note that she had written with an unshaking hand. A marriage built on lies and favoritism starts already in debt. It wasn't meant to destroy. It was meant to reveal, to remind them that erasing someone doesn't erase the truth. After placing the envelope down, Lily smoothed the front of her dress and turned toward the small crowd that had noticed her. Rachel stood near the altar, her eyes darting between Lily and the envelope, suspicion written across her face. For a moment, their gazes locked, two sisters standing on opposite sides of a lifetime of imbalance. Lily gave a polite, almost gentle smile. Then she turned to Rachel's new husband, James, who had been watching the scene unfold with confusion. She extended her hand, steady and sincere, and said, "Congratulations, James. I truly wish you both the best." Her voice carried across the hall, calm and composed, and it made Rachel's forced smile falter just slightly. Then Lily turned and began walking toward the door. No scene, no shouting, no tears. Each step echoed softly against the polished floor as the crowd parted to let her through. Her mother reached out as if to stop her, whispering, "Lily, please don't." But Lily didn't slow down. She simply looked at her once, not with anger, but with quiet finality, and kept walking. The heavy doors closed behind her with a gentle thud that seemed to seal years of chaos away. Outside, the autumn air felt cool against her skin. The sounds of laughter and music faded as she made her way down the steps, her heels clicking in rhythm with her heartbeat. For the first time in years, Lily didn't feel small or erased. She felt powerful, not because she had hurt anyone, but because she had chosen dignity over despair. There was no satisfaction in revenge, only a deep, liberating peace. She didn't need to say another word. The truth would speak for itself soon enough. And as she walked toward her car, sunlight breaking through the clouds, she allowed herself the faintest smile, calm, deliberate, and free. The fallout came faster than Lily expected. 3 days after the wedding, while she was sitting at her small kitchen table drinking coffee before work, her phone started vibrating nonstop. At first, she ignored it, assuming it was just the usual family gossip chat she was still muted in. But then she saw her cousin Mia's name flash across the screen, followed by a message that made her pause. "Lily, what did you do? Rachel's husband is furious." For a moment, Lily froze, the mug hovering near her lips. She didn't reply. She didn't need to. She knew exactly what had happened. The envelope. The truth. By that evening, her phone was overflowing with missed calls, mostly from her mother. Then came a voicemail, her mom's voice shaking with anger and desperation. "Lily, how could you embarrass us like that? You ruined Rachel's wedding. Everyone is talking about it. You should be ashamed of yourself." But there was no shame in Lily this time, only a quiet, unwavering calm. She didn't ruin anything, she thought. She just stopped covering for them. The lies had always been there. She had only shone a light on them. The next morning, a new message came, this time from Rachel's husband, James. It was short, measured, but heavy with disappointment. "I didn't know you were the one who paid for all that. She told me her parents handled it. Thank you for helping us, even if it ended this way." That single text carried more honesty than her entire family had shown her in years. She didn't reply right away, but she smiled faintly. Somewhere inside, justice had quietly balanced itself. Soon, screenshots started making their way through the extended family group chats. Some relatives expressed shock, others disbelief, but the tide began to turn. One by one, messages started trickling into Lily's inbox. Her Aunt Clara wrote, "You handled it with class, sweetheart. Your silence said more than shouting ever could." Her cousin Mia sent another, "Honestly, good for you. It's about time someone stood up to your mom." Lily didn't seek validation, but for once, she didn't feel alone in her truth. People saw what she had endured, and they respected the way she handled it. Meanwhile, her mother's anger had turned into panic. She called again and again, leaving voicemails that swung between fury and guilt. You think you're righteous. You just wanted attention. You're tearing this family apart. Then another, softer one, hours later. Please, Lily. I didn't mean to make you feel excluded. I was just trying to keep things simple. Lily listened to both messages in silence, then deleted them. She didn't need explanations from someone who only remembered love when it was convenient. On the fourth day, Rachel herself finally called. The voice on the other end was not the confident, glowing bride Lily had seen walking down the aisle. It was trembling, small, the voice of someone whose illusions had cracked. Lily, please don't hang up. I didn't mean for it to go this far. Mom said it was better this way. I thought you'd understand. There were sobs between sentences, apologies tangled with excuses. Lily listened quietly, her mind calm and distant. When Rachel finally stopped, waiting for forgiveness, Lily spoke softly but firmly. I'm done proving my love to people who measure it by convenience. There was silence on the other end, a silence that said Rachel finally understood. Lily didn't wait for another word. She simply said, "Take care," and ended the call. For the first time in years, she didn't feel the weight of guilt pressing on her chest. Instead, she felt light, almost free. In the following weeks, she went back to her routine, teaching her students, walking home in the soft afternoon light, enjoying the small peace that came with solitude. Occasionally, she'd get a message from someone new, a distant cousin, an old family friend, saying how her story had made them rethink their own family dynamics. She'd reply politely, never bitter, never boastful. She had no desire for revenge anymore. Her victory wasn't in their regret, it was in her peace. One evening, as she watered the small plants on her balcony, her phone buzzed again, a new text from Rachel. Just one line, "I miss you." Lily looked at it for a long time, then put her phone face down and smiled faintly. Maybe someday forgiveness would come. But not today. Today belonged to her, the day she finally stopped chasing love that had conditions. The day she chose herself. And for Lily, that quiet choice was the sweetest justice of all day, and the weeks that followed. Lily's life slowly settled into a calm rhythm, one that finally felt like her own. The noise from the wedding scandal faded, replaced by the quiet hum of her daily life. Waking early for work, laughing with her students, and coming home to the little apartment she had built by herself. There were no calls from her mother now, no sudden guilt messages, no family drama to tiptoe around. The silence that once used to ache now felt like freedom. She started meeting friends after work, people who saw her as more than just someone's daughter or sister, people who appreciated her kindness without taking advantage of it. Each conversation, each small moment of laughter, helped her rebuild the confidence her family had quietly chipped away over the years. One evening, while grading papers at her kitchen table, her phone lit up with a familiar name, Rachel. The message was long, filled with remorse and explanations about how she had felt pressured by their mom, how she never intended to hurt Lily, how she wished things could go back to the way they were. Lily read it slowly, her heart heavy but steady. She knew Rachel meant it, or at least believed she did, but Lily also knew that forgiveness didn't have to mean returning to old wounds. She typed a short, sincere reply. I hope you and James build something honest and kind. I truly wish you well. Then she put her phone down and took a deep breath. She didn't feel anger anymore, just release. Her mother, on the other hand, never called again. There was no grand apology, no tearful reconciliation, and Lily had stopped expecting one. For the first time in her life, she didn't need her mother's approval to feel whole. She understood now that some relationships only survive through silence and submission, and once you start speaking your truth, they crumble. And that was okay. It wasn't her job to keep them intact at the cost of herself. The next morning, she stood by her classroom window, watching her students run across the playground. Sunlight spilled across the floor, and Lily smiled softly. There was peace in knowing she had done the right thing, not the loud thing, not the vengeful thing, but the strong one. Her story wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about rediscovering her worth in a world that tried to make her feel replaceable. As she packed her things and turned off the lights that afternoon, her reflection caught in the window. Calm, confident, content. She whispered softly to herself, "Sometimes, walking into the room you weren't welcome in is the only way to remind them who you really are." And for the first time in a long time, Lily didn't just believe the words. She felt them. She had walked through humiliation, betrayal, and loneliness, and come out stronger, freer, and finally at peace with herself. Her story wasn't one of pain anymore, it was one of power.